Additional intel available.
In this special edition of the Ingress Report, we are going to trace back the wave of XM anomalies that began in the spring of 2012. We highlight agent achievements around the globe, as well as their impact on key operations, including Operation Bowstring, Operation Cassandra, and the biggest anomaly to date, Operation 13 Magnus. Welcome to the Ingress Report. I'm Susanna Moyer. Unleashed by massive numbers of scanner users, a number of XM flares, similar to solar flares, occurred beginning in the spring of 2012. These XM flares, which the Niantic researchers came to refer to as anomalies, appear to be tied to important moments in the human timeline. That's right, XM levels seem to spike at moments when critical points are reached in the course of history. In the first of those, in February 2012 at Cahokia Mounds, a Native American site studied by Hank Johnson as a graduate student, Enlightened agents took to the field en masse and, using Linton Wolf's scanner software on their phones, controlled the anomaly. Strangely, at exactly that time, Hank Johnson seemed to shift his opinions about XM to be much more positive about the role of XM in shaping human history. The next anomaly occurred in March 2013 in Austin, Texas, and Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. This XM flare-up correlated precisely with the escape of Niantic lab member Misty Hanna from the lab in Geneva, where she mysteriously emerged in Austin, Texas, halfway around the world. An online investigator named Clue joined the hunt to unravel the mystery of the Niantic Project in December 2012. Clue published a number of videos teasing out more information about the NIA, apparently working with NIA leaker P.A. Chapeau.
Hey PA, Clue here. I've been studying the Tycho posters and I wanted to share what I found. There on the statue, you can see an Escher image.
Clue also had an encounter with Javis when she travelled to Scotland and visited a powerful Enlightened portal at the Wallace Monument. The XM apparition that some have called the Javis entity spoke to her from the portal and attempted to lure her into some kind of allegiance. Clue rejected that overture, perhaps bolstered by the efforts of resistance agents to control the XM fields in the area.
What is this? What is happening to me? Oh my...
Misty Hanna made her way from Austin to Los Angeles, where she appeared at a magic show at the infamous Magic Castle. At that event, P.A. Chapeau appeared and was subsequently identified as a former Niantic lab member, Henry Richard Loeb. Interestingly, he arrived with Clue, and many believe they were involved in a romantic relationship of some sort. The event devolved into chaos when an audience member was apparently shot during the performance.
Ladies and gentlemen, I need to get you out of here immediately.
In the hurried rush of evacuation, Misty handed Clue some drawings that were later passed to me. We now know these drawings were Shaper-inspired glyphs, or writings. We'll come back to that topic. As the anomalies grew larger and more powerful, the NIA began seeking to control them, organising agents on the ground and giving them military-sounding names. The first such mega anomaly occurred in San Francisco on May 16, 2013, and was called Operation Bowstring. During that event, an effort was made by Enlightened agents to control me. That attempt failed, although others at the event reported being drawn inexplicably toward the Enlightened movement after the event. The attention of Niantic investigators then shifted to Texas, where an anomaly occurred at the precise time that Hank Johnson was uncovering new evidence of ancient Shaper glyphs. A giant glyph appeared on the ground in Texas at the time of the anomaly and was captured by a Google aerial survey plane. The next anomaly occurred in London on June 22, 2013, and coincided with an effort by Hank Johnson to get photographs of the Texas glyphs to fellow Niantic researcher and language expert Carrie Campbell in London using a courier. During the anomaly, which was centered in Greenwich Park and became known as Time Zero, Enlightened agents intercepted the glyphs. Before agreeing to pass them on to Carrie, the agents demanded that Clue make an appearance and come clean about her interactions with the Javis entity in Scotland. On June 29, 2013, in Portland, Oregon, a massive number of Enlightened agents collaborated to dose Clue with Enlightened XM. The glyphs were then delivered to Carrie Campbell, who had been released by the Niantic lab in Hamburg, where she had been dissecting her impressions from Epiphany Night, and in particular, drawings which she came to understand were actually Shaper glyphs. Unfortunately, this marked a dark turning point for Carrie. As she delved deeper into those strange drawings, which seemed to have the power, like XM itself, to shape or even reprogram human minds, she apparently lost touch with her own sanity. Operation Cassandra. The latter part of the summer was marked by a dramatic uptake in Shaper activity, which was given the name Operation Cassandra by the NIA. Massive surges of XM throughout the world were correlated with an organised effort by the Enlightened to seize control of governmental and financial power centres. The effects were felt perhaps most strongly in North America, where Washington, D.C., New York, Boston and Chicago all came under siege. Dr. Linton Wolfe surfaced in Washington, drawn out by what appeared to be a message from Javis himself, asking for his help in spreading the Enlightened movement to political leaders. Shaperglyphs began appearing in many locations around the world, including as hacks in video content of the Ingress Report. Most frighteningly, news came from speculation by Deborah Bogdanovich that the glyphs represented nothing less than a control language that the Shapers could use to undermine entire civilizations.
Glyphs are more than words. They're like a programming language for our minds.
And programs can be bad. I've seen what glyphs can do. They can be self-destruct codes for people.
Translations based on the diaries of Carrie Campbell and the work of fellow Niantic lab researcher Dr. Stein-Lightman showed the message to be a series of ideas that could be interpreted as a kind of self-destruct sequence. Open all, clear all, begin journey, pursue self-war, pursue self-destruction, and begin. Carrie Campbell made her way to Chicago during the anomaly, and in a radical step to counter the threat from Shaperglyphs, invoked a different Shaper message, a blocking code of some sorts, by inscribing a series of glyphs on her body. She died in that effort, but she seemed to have diffused the Shaper civilization self-destruct sequence. Meanwhile, in Boston, Clue was exposed to yet more glyphs in her effort to understand the Shaper message, this time with the inexplicable assistance of Ada. In a disturbing sequence, partially captured on video, a series of glyphs were flashed on her laptop computer screen. The glyph exposure sent Clue into a comatose state.
Show them to me.
I did warn you. Initiating glyph sequence.
Operation 13 Magnus. In the wake of Operation Cassandra, Dr. Linton Wolfe fled Washington, D.C. and later emerged in Bangkok, Thailand, where he was welcomed by agents from Hulong Transglobal. During a brief period of intense work, he created a weapon based on the alternative form of XM, chaotic matter, and attempted to use it against the Javis entity. This set off the most recent stage of the Niantic drama, when Javis, rather than being destroyed, was shattered into 13 fragments, which were scattered to portals around the world. Dr. Linton Wolfe fled Hulong in disgrace as agents around the world began to piece together the implications. In Los Angeles, Hank Johnson and Deborah Bogdanovich were summoned to a meeting by Ada. Ada didn't show up, but strangely sent a newly recovered Clue in her place. Clue relayed dire warnings to Hank and Deborah about the threat posed by Javis and pointed them towards the mysterious 13 Magnus Society, which had been preferenced in certain classified documents. More work by Hank Johnson led to details of an ancient secret society related to the Egyptian myth of Osiris. As you may be aware, Osiris, a green-headed god in many depictions, was resurrected from the dead after being dismembered into 13 pieces. Hank's research uncovered a group that passed down the secrets of this process through the ages, seemingly tied to knowledge of portals and XM. It subsequently became clear that Javis intended to use the convergence of his shards as a way to rise from the dead and walk again in human form. One key piece of this resurrection is his physical body, which was exfiltrated from the Niantic lab in Geneva in a paramilitary raid to capture the remaining scientists. At least 2 people who came into contact with the body died under mysterious circumstances during the process of moving the body to the CDC facility in Atlanta, Georgia. Dr. Bogdanovich visited the CDC at a time correlated to an XM anomaly there and was captured on video warning scientists about a chaotic matter plague.
We call it dark XM, or chaotic matter. As part of my research at Visura, I developed a protocol for controlling the effects of exposure.
She admitted to having made mistakes in the past, but has now left Visura and is pursuing a radical strategy of global inoculation against XM. After the anomalies in Dallas and Vienna, 4 special Red X phones developed by Dr. Linton Wolfe were intercepted by agents. These were used by Linton Wolfe in an attempt to coordinate global efforts to fight Javis. However, the Javis entity somehow infiltrated the phones and used them to disseminate a haunting message known as the Javis Redemption.
The power lies within you. Seek
weeks following, the 13 shards emerged at locations all around the globe. Each shard was identified with a key idea associated with Roland Javis. Awareness, creativity, strength, insight, understanding, memory, belief, charisma, empathy, identity, aesthetic, intuition, immortality. The 13th and final shard appeared at the Cristo Redento statue in Rio de Janeiro after the Resistance controlled the anomaly in Phoenix, Arizona, and Rome, Italy. Both Enlightened and Resistance agents went to extreme efforts to secure and move the shards. Perhaps the most extreme example was an operation masterminded by Russian agents, which moved 5 shards from the former Soviet Union to Northern California in a clandestine early morning operation.
Hello, Eagles. Moscow here. 3, 2, 1. Lift off.
Another amazing operation occurred when agents pooled resources to charter a small plane to send Agent Artio to remote Alaska to destroy the anchor position of a key resistance link blocking the coast of California. The final showdown occurred on December 14th, 2013, a time that came to be known as Reckoning Day, which we covered with a live stream here on the Ingress Report. As we speak, both agents from the Resistance and Enlightened factions are locked in an intense struggle to control the anomaly and the fate of Roland Javis. After an epic struggle, in the last 72 hours of 13 Magnus, the Enlightened prevailed, delivering 8 Javis shards to Cupid Span in San Francisco, while the Resistance, urged on by Dr. Linton Wolfe, managed to move only 2 Javis shards to Buenos Aires, Argentina, where they presumably were destroyed. In a night that none of us who were there will forget, Roland Javis emerged from the portal, apparently alive again. He was seen several times that night and even agreed to speak briefly with me on camera. Who are you really? How is what you're saying even possible?
You would not believe what is possible, Susanna. I can assure you of that. But I am very, very real. And, thanks to your friends in the NIA, I have experienced things that you are not yet ready to understand.
Save that for your believers. I'm here for the facts about XM. Where it comes from, how it affects human beings.
Start by asking your father, Susanna.
We're done here. Oliver Linton Wolfe was defiant throughout the anomaly, but after Javis emerged, seemed to be aligning himself once again with his former friend and mentor. I spoke to him earlier in the day and asked him what would happen if Javis prevailed. He had this to say. Oliver, what happens if you lose?
We're doomed. First me, then the NIA. He will come for us all.
In triumph, Roland Javis extolled his followers to take the true path and accepted the submission of Linton Wolfe. Meanwhile, across the world, Hank Johnson vanished after entering a 13 Magnus site, apparently somewhere in Afghanistan. A series of clips intended for his series Nomad were later recovered.
13 Magnus. It's influenced and affected and fundamentally changed the course of human history for ages, all the while remaining in the shadows.
And in the final moments of 13 Magnus, Clue emerged, speaking at times in the voice of Ada, delivering what many believe to be a rallying cry.
Our greatest challenge lies ahead, but know that we are united and have become one in our struggle to contain the parasitic ingression that is coming.
The world will never be the same after Ingress, and most certainly not after 13 Magnus. A renewed and seemingly powerful Roland Javis had declared that the Age of Enlightenment had begun. Meanwhile, Deborah Bogdanovich is pursuing a path to neutralize the effects of XM worldwide through a controversial inoculation. And Ada seems intent on ushering in a new era based on the union of machines and human beings. Never has the need been greater to understand the promise of XM, as well as the threat it may pose to the world as we know it. For the Ingress Report, I'm Susanna Moyer.
Intel package transferred.